Hello, hello, everybody. Oh, I'm trying to get into a good headspace here. All right, welcome to wel- welcome to Disclosure Now. I'm here with Erin Elizabeth, and Erin is a good friend to both this show and Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress. You'll see her in the chat a lot with comments and things like that, and I met Erin on the Typical Skeptic podcast with Rob, and I guess I'll introduce you a little bit more. But I kind of want to ask you the question myself: is like what started attracting you to like this kind of information and like finding like my channel and like Jessica Jones and like Robert Khalil and the Typical Skeptic podcast and all these other pages. Like, what was it that led you to that?
Okay, so and I answered this also when I was on Julia's channel the other day, her channel Anchor Haven. So really when Chase died, or I don't think he really died, but when he was taken, and
Who
then once
is
I realized,
Who is Chase?
huh?
Who is Chase?
Okay, Chase was someone that I knew. Like, I had a YouTube channel. Like, I started YouTube in 2014, and he was always on my channel, and he was like really supportive and stuff. But I never knew really who he was. But then in 2019, he started to tell me that who he was, and he was in the programs, but I don't even know like if he had figured that out or if he knew that that was going on. But he had like a whole lot of information, and he was telling me like all this stuff. He was warning me about my enemies, um and everything. And like also at that time in my life that he began to talk to me, I started to get like things started to get a lot more dangerous as far as like people around me and just situations and stuff. But anyways, so in yeah, and we got to know each other pretty well. He was giving me a lot of information, but in January in 2020, he was gone, and I was looking for him, and I was looking everywhere for him. And then I never found him, but what I ended up finding was an obituary. And at first, I didn't know. At first, I thought he really died, but then like I just didn't feel that he did. And so, but basically, to answer your question, in me searching for what happened to him, and I've been looking since 2020, that's how I started to come across all this information. And there were like certain parts of it that I found that because I knew that there was something going on with him that was like really big. But he never told me exactly that it was the programs. Cause like I said, I don't even know if he had like figured it all really out. Um, but yeah, that's how I started to find information about, and it wasn't through anybody's channel. It was just me online researching stuff. And when I started to find the information about the programs, I was like, okay, yeah, this is exactly what was going on here. And then he was trying to tell me also that I was involved with it. So I don't know, like the first video that I saw was James Rink's channel, and I watched two videos that night. There was a video with you, and I knew that I knew you, and there was a video. He had a video also with Ishmael Perez, and I knew that somehow I knew Ishmael. So, but yeah, to answer your question, that's how, like, in me looking for what happened to him, that's how I found, what's going on with all this. But it's been like a long time. Like, I've been looking for a long time. But even before that, like, I already knew. Like, as soon as I was born, like, I remember like thinking, like, something's going on and nobody's talking
So,
about it.
yeah. So it sounds like it was kind of a traumatic event that it took to kind of make the information maybe come to surface a little bit more, and you start figuring it out.
Yeah.
Um, I remember you from the Montauk project or Project Phoenix 2, and my recall of you helped me learn a lot about the project. Um, I'm always learning more and more and understanding it better and realizing that they had things really um, compartmentalized and had like ways to keep everything kind of separated but together, um, and kind of keep people against each other in a way almost. And so at the beginning of the show, that song I played, that song was Hummingbird. And what happened when I met you is I got that in my head, like that, like, I'll call you my hummingbird, and that was just in general your nickname. And I looked it up, and there's a song, Hummingbird, um, by Carly Pierce, and it came out like 2 or 3 years ago. It's not even that crazy big of a song or anything. It's not like a huge pop song, but I like knew that song would exist. This has happened with a few songs where I knew it would exist. I knew what it was going to sound like and everything, and I look it up and then I find it, and it exists, which is a very surreal experience for me to have. And when I have stuff like that happen to me, like when people try to tell me that like I'm tripping and like this isn't real, like you'd have to be in my shoes to understand how real it is when it happens. When you remember a song and you look it up and you find it, I mean that's some crazy stuff to have happen. And you find it, and then the literal thing that you heard is like right there. It's a pretty crazy thing. And what that song was about, I've tried to explain this. I've explained this many times, but it's good to reiterate because I've noticed that a lot of people still don't really understand it. Is that Montauk, we lived multiple lives, like over and over. Like they had clones, and you'd go in there maybe as a baby or maybe older, depending on when they wanted you to go in there and what they wanted you to know. You might have your memory and know that you're going in there and that's a time mission, or you might not go in there with some Monarch programming where it's like automatic programming, and you go in there and you don't even know that you're on a mission. Either way, regardless, they'd send us on missions that were entire lifetimes. And what they would do is, we've talked about the trauma twinning on this channel a lot, which is we would all have kind of like a main person that we were paired with very young. They put us in some sort of traumatic situation, have the person of the opposite sex be able to be there for us in some sort of way that would trauma bond us to them. And then we'd basically do anything to be with that person. And that was a form of mind control to get us to do whatever they wanted us to do, which worked stupidly well on me, and I'm very ashamed of it. But with you, you weren't my main trauma twin, but they would switch us on. In fact, you weren't my trauma twin at all. Well, they had teams where of 6 or 7 sometimes, and it would be couples of whether it's a person, a female, and a person and a male, and they go in there, and we would get paired with each other frequently. And it's Jacob's memories, but I remember the memories flashing before my eyes. I'm not him right now, but I remember it. I remember like seeing like sorry, just give me a second. I remember seeing us in ancient Ireland, like really, really ancient Ireland, and we were among like the royalty there. I don't know if we literally were in the that aristocracy, like or the royalty. Excuse me, the royalty, but we were part of like we're well off. I don't remember why we were there. I don't remember what we were doing, but I remember we had a whole life. Like we had children. we had a home. Like, it was a whole life. And there was multiple ones. Multiple lives that I live with you. And it's just one of them. And I remember that song, and people can look it up if they want. You know, I just played like a tiny little clip to not get copyright strike, because I think if it has to be like over 30 seconds or a certain amount of time. But basically, it was about, and you can read the lyrics, and kind of, you'll be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But it was basically about how we loved each other deeply, and I knew that, and you knew that, but we had to basically pretend that we didn't, because they believed at the Montauk, they believed that if you were like in love, that's like a weakness. You know, you're not going to work as efficiently, um, and not only that, they will use it against you. You know, and is it likely that one of the ways that they will use it against you would be taking that person away from you to the point where you never see them again. You know, which happened to me with a few people, multiple people in the project, people I cared about. They took them away from me, and I never saw them again. When they take people away from you, you didn't get to ask them why or when you're gonna see them again. You didn't get to ask those kind of questions. It wasn't like that. Like, people don't understand. It wasn't like the real world, like the normal world. It wasn't like that. It was a crazy, fucked up place. Like, and it literally a place that was so fucked up where loving a person and caring about a person could be, you could get like reprimanded for it. You could like get in trouble for it. And so that's what that song was about. And I know for a fact that, you know, and this isn't all tears, so I'd have to talk to her about it, but it emotionally damaged me, wondering if you loved me or not. I knew I loved you. And you have to wonder if the person is putting up like a charade, if it's all for the missions that you're on and all that, because you gotta play the part. We were a couple. We were supposed to act like a couple. 9 out of 10 times, you know. And yeah, it's just this just meeting you has been a whole whirlwind in my life, actually. You know, which people might know about it or might not know about it. It was a little tiny bit of a public thing, but I don't really want to get into the details. But yeah, it was just I remember you from that project, and I also, you know, I'm not going to say who it is. She doesn't want to. She got mad at me for bringing it up, but I know who your mom is, your biological mom, who isn't whoever your mom is in this life. It's the same way with my life. My biological parents are different people, people that I was related to. Like, my dad is like my nephew. My mom is with my daughter. It's really weird stuff, right? Um, but like, yeah, I know. So that's another thing that was really traumatizing for me, actually, to be honest with you. Like, I brought up to her that this is to your daughter, hoping that it would be this joyous moment of reconnection with something that was so precious that had been taken from her. She flipped out on me. I don't know if it's like programming or what. Anyway, I don't mean to take the whole interview from you. I'm sorry about that, but that's the
You're
story
not.
about.
You're fine. Everything's fine.
That's
Yeah,
the
I
story.
remember when you told me that you spoke to her and that she was like very upset, you know, and I mean, so when you told me about that, like it didn't upset me, but I was just like I felt bad for her because
Yeah. Well.
I don't want anyone to be upset because that's the whole thing truly that I feel in my soul is going on here. It is, you know, we know that I mean many things have happened, but we know that basically it's a battle for our energies. It's like a battle for consciousness. And like how you were saying, like in the programs, they didn't want us to you know, be connected to anyone or to love anyone. And that's because love is a very, very strong emotion. I could have shut down all their stuff, you know? And I mean, like, it kind of looks like now that that's what's happening here, is that now that we are all connected and, you know, just talking about things and, you know, just and getting it all out, you know, like getting all this stuff out, you know, and realizing like, hey, this is like truly about peace and stuff. And then that's why all their stuff is starting to fall apart now, you know. But I don't want her to be upset, and I don't want you especially or anyone. I want everybody to feel good, and
Well,
you know, but
I
it's a
want to.
lot to process.
This is Jacob coming forward. The reason why she is upset about that is because you were created through. I can't say it on YouTube, like an act that was not consensual. Let's put it that way. We soften our words here very much so. Um, and it was a black magic ritual, and it was probably extremely traumatizing for her to go through that and to have you taken away from her. And she probably made peace with that a long time ago. And to have that brought up out of nowhere, out of the blue, actually was disrespectful of Arkheim. It was. You might not realize that, but I do. And that's the reality of these programs. It's not easy. It's not like these are difficult waters to tread. And I feel very sorry for Arkheim that he doesn't get to talk to that woman anymore, that became the end of their friendship. This woman that we don't want to say her name because we don't like talking about people like that if we don't have to. But they're a good person, and I'm sure that they did, in a way did love you very much, and it hurt them very much to have you taken away from them. But the fact is they probably had to make peace of that. It was probably really hard to do, like really hard to do, I'm sure, and that's the reason why it was hard. So I'm coming back now. It's me again. Sorry, Keem. So that makes sense. What Jacob just said. And yeah, does that make sense to you, Erin? The fact that she might want to talk to you because you were taken from her in a vicious manner. You were created against her will, which that doesn't mean that she wouldn't have loved you, but then you were taken away from her, and then she had to make peace with that. You know, it makes sense why that would be hard. It would be hard to hear about you out of the blue, maybe see your face again. That might have been really hard. That probably was really hard.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel sorry, and I wish I could reach out to her and apologize to her, but I kind of know that the bridge is already burned, and it's cool. I'm just glad that we were able to reconnect for a brief moment in this life and be friends, even for that brief moment that it worked out and we got along. And that's common with Montauk Time soldiers, by the way. A lot of times we don't get along for very long, you know, because we'll remember things, or things will come up that are really messed up, and stop talking to each other over it. So I knew this was going to be a really hard interview for me to do. I'm trying to just stay grounded here and get back to reality here. Um, so did you have anything happen to you when you were younger that would maybe connect you to an experience of like missing time or something like that, to where like were you in like maybe the talented and gifted program in school or anything like that, where you feel like you maybe got pulled into these programs through it,
Oh,
or
absolutely. Yeah. Um, when I was, you know, I don't know if I've told you about this before. I know I've talked about it before. When I was 5 years old, I had an abduction. I may have even had one earlier than that, but 5 years old was the one that I can truly, truly remember. And I was at church with my neighbors. I used to always go to church with my neighbors. And when we were walking out, like everyone opened the doors for us, and I'm like walking out with a group of people, but when the doors were open for us, I continued to walk outside and nobody was there was no people, and even like all the vehicles were gone. And I walked, like, I wasn't scared, but I was
Like
just
an
like
episode
super
of the Twilight
confused.
Zone.
Yeah, truly, truly. It was so weird. And then what's really crazy about it is that when it happened, I didn't realize how weird it was until I got way older and started researching everything about it. So when I walked out of that building, and I said nobody was there. There was not even vehicles there. I was so confused. I didn't know what was going on. I walked around this building 3 times. When I'm making my third round around the building, there was this woman there. So I didn't see this woman like appear, but she was not there. And then when I go back around, she is there. And so I walk up to this lady and I was like, hey, I'm not sure what's going on, but it looks like everybody left me and I need to go home. Can you help me? And she was like, yeah, I can help you. And so I was like, okay, thanks. And she asked me what my name was. I said to her my name, and she put me in her vehicle. We start driving. She's driving. I didn't even know my address, so I don't know how any of this was happening. But she started driving, and it seems like we drove forever. It seemed like the drive was way longer than it would take to get back to my house, because it was a very small town. Everything's close together. But we're driving, and then she pulled over onto the side of the road. When she pulled over onto the side of the road, she was like, okay, now it's time to go with your neighbor. So they took me out of this car, they put me into my neighbor's car, and then my neighbor drove me to my house, or she actually drove to her house, and my house was like up the hill. So she drove to her house, and then I just walked to the top of the hill to my house, and then everything seemed normal on that day. But after I slept, and then on the second day, I felt really sad. Like that, I felt really sad. I knew that I was like missing a group of people, or that I felt like either I was missing from a place or that other people were missing from me, but I could never ever explain it to myself. But I made an imaginary friend so I could talk to somebody about this. So I was 5. When I got and I was in kindergarten when I lived there, we moved back to Louisiana. And when I got in school, like I never had problems in school. Like I always did 100%. And then and then it was like, so I never had any problems. But then when I was 8 years old, I went into the coma. Well, when I come out of the coma, and then I went back to school, I was like kind of afraid, like kind of nervous that I was going to have problems. But actually, when I got back into school after the coma, I did 100% on everything, so much so that it was like, I didn't even realize. So like I didn't think like I was smart, or I didn't think I was the smartest kid. I was just doing what I do, but it was like they would send me letters to like go to these like academic beauty pageants and stuff, and like all these things. I would never go to them because they were like in a different state. But I mean, it was like, yeah, like I could show you. I have a ton of all the stuff from school that's like all 100%, all this, like positive comments from teachers and stuff like that. Like when I got older, like in high school, I kind of started slipping. But yeah, like when I was younger, like especially around the time of that abduction, the time of the coma, before and after, up until I was about like 14, I did like, yeah. And they never I was never in any like classes that were like exclusive classes to the, how some schools will have them, like they'll have the kids like in one class, or like on this like class period, you'll go like into this different room. Like I don't really remember ever being like divided from the other students. But I mean, definitely it was obvious. Like at the time it wasn't, but now looking back, I'm like, oh yeah. And the hearing test thing, like they loved to do the hearing test on me. Like they did that every time. And the thing about it too is, like when I was young, like we moved around a lot. So I went to like a ton of new schools. And every time I would go to a new school, that would be like the first thing that they did was like the hearing test. I went to a ton of schools. Yeah, so
Like that
definitely, I
coma may have
know.
been the extraction point for you, because I've noticed that like comas, we're I've been talking lately about Kat was the one who brought this up to me. George Lucas is he was a motorcycle guy, like racing motorcycles, and he got in an accident. He was in a coma, and then like Star Wars and like THX 1138, like these great science fiction movies that we all know and love. I guess he just had them like fully formed, and I have this kind of crazy idea that like, what if he was like living like SSP lives or something like that, and he was part of the Montauk project or something like that. Because there is this actually, not to get sidetracked too much, but there is a connection with the Star Wars people and um, the Montauk project. Preston Nichols even was the sound guy for Star Wars for a little bit, but he got or one of the sound guys, and he got fired pretty fast. Um, but
Yeah.
uh, yeah, but you have you any like you say you don't have any memories of Montauk, which might be a good thing. Honestly, it's not really very fun to remember it. But do you have any like other weird paranormal experiences or like abduction experiences? I mean, you already have had some pretty bizarre stuff happen. You've already said, but I'm just curious if there's like anything else that happened to you while you're younger or even later on in life.
Yeah, I can tell you about that. And so, like, when you were asking about the coma, one weird thing, well, there was a lot of weird things actually, but like, so when I woke up from the coma and I had to go through like so much like physical therapy and everything, because I was like a baby. I had to learn everything. I couldn't speak or anything like that, but I was really determined. So I worked really hard. But when I went home, well, first off, this I remember when I woke up from the coma, and I couldn't do anything except for to think. But the one of the first things I was thinking of, besides like where am I, and what happened, was like I was obsessed with researching genetics, even though like no one in my family was like working on ancestry stuff. This was like way before we had the internet at our house or anything like that. But so like when I got sent back, I was sent back to like research genetics. And then also when I went home, and I know I talked about this when we were on Rob's podcast that time, when I went home, starting on the very first night that I was back home, actually, I was at my grandparents' house. But that's when I started hearing big band music come out of the ceiling every single night. And it was so loud that I could not sleep. And I used to always think it was my papa because we used to listen to talk radio, like Art Bell and everything. And I thought, well, maybe he's just got the radio on really loud in his room. But it wasn't, because it was always the same song over and over. And it was that song that I told you, it's called I've Heard That Song Before. It's Harry James Orchestra. And so forever, I did not know. And also okay, so it would be every single night that I tried to sleep, but then also all throughout my life at random times, I would hear it coming from the ceiling. And it could be if there's a TV on, it could be if there is nothing on, it could be if I'm talking, it could be it's just whenever. And it's this one song that just comes out of the ceiling. Also, when I got back home, we started seeing all kind of lights in the sky and everything, and we'd all be outside looking and all this stuff. And at the time, I didn't know. Of course, I didn't know that all of this was related. But as far as other paranormal stuff, absolutely. Also, living in Louisiana, so like even if you're just like somebody not in the programs or whatever, a ton of things happens down here, and that's because we have Watson Break, which is the oldest mounds that they've ever carbon dated. We've got Poverty Point. Those are like the second oldest mounds. These are right where I live at. So there's that going on, which like just heightens all the like paranormal stuff. But like I remember one time, so it was I lived in this house. This was when I was about 20 or 21, because this is when I had just one baby. My baby was little. And so I'm in this house. I was living up in town by the library, and I was just home alone one night. I didn't know anybody was coming by, but my brother and his girlfriend come by, and like, so I went to the door. I didn't even have shoes on or anything because I didn't know I was going anywhere. But so I was like, hey, y'all come in, come sit down. And anyways, by the time, like, we were just saying hello, by the time that they even sat down on the furniture, this Picasso projected off the wall. Like, it didn't fall off the wall. Like, it come off of the wall.
Mm-hmm.
It comes so far off of the wall. It's like
I've had that
this.
happen to me too.
Yeah, it come off of the wall, and then it's spinning around, and it probably spinning around in like 20 circles going clockwise, and then it landed. Where it landed at was like, okay, because I had this fireplace. It landed right in the center, in front of the bricks of the fireplace, face up, all on the right side. So after that happened, me and my brother and this girl that was his girlfriend at the time, we just freaking, like, we didn't say anything, we didn't scream, we didn't do anything, we just ran out of the house. So I ran out of the house, I had no shoes on. And then, so what we think happened is this: like, we ran out of there with the intention of us all getting in my brother's car and like just going somewhere different. However, and I asked my brother about this about a year ago. I was like, hey, do you remember when this happened? And like, so I was just basically trying to line up the story and make sure that like my memory was the same memory that he has of this. He said, yeah, that's what happened. I was like, okay, brother, can you remember getting in your car, or can you remember where we went, or can you remember driving me back to my house? Because all I know is I remember we ran out of the house, and then I woke up in my bed the next day. And he was like, Erin, oh my gosh. He was like, I've never thought about that, but I honestly cannot remember. So like, that happened. There's been so many things that happen. A lot happens. I've had a ton of stuff happen at St. Francisville, and like, Louisiana history is just amazing. It's so interesting. I started taking Louisiana history when I was in 5th grade. But like, okay, so I loved Myrtle's Plantation. I was like super, like, very interested in Myrtle's Plantation. But when I went there, when I was probably like 21. So it was probably right around the time the thing happened that I just told you about, where the thing flew off the wall. I went down there and took some pictures and stuff. And actually, no, the pictures that I have were from the next trip down there. Okay, so yeah, I went down there. That was when I had just my one child. Okay, when I went back another time, it was actually me, both of my babies, and my parents were going down there because we had to go to Baton Rouge to do some stuff at the state. And so we stopped by there. I took these photos. There's this one photo of, it's a well-known photo of this ghost called Chloe at the Myrtle's Plantation. And the picture of her, they got the picture of her when actually somebody was taking photos of the place for like real estate stuff, or like some, like, I don't know exactly what, insurance or something like that. So that it's a photo of her where she is like, okay, so it's like she's like a shadow person. This photo was black and white, but it's like, okay, so the kitchen's over here, the house is over here. She was standing in between the kitchen and the house, and she was facing the kitchen. Okay, but in the photo that I have, she's standing in the exact same spot, but she's facing the house. It looks just like a mirror image of the photo from the one that they took back in like the 60s or the 70s. Then also another picture I took on that trip was there's this like furniture in the yard, like this outdoor, there's like wicker furniture, and then there's like the wrought iron type stuff. So I took a picture of this it was a white wrought iron like little table with 2 chairs. So I took that. When I got home and I was looking and I was like zooming in on the pictures trying to find stuff, there is, and I'm going to make a video of this too because I want everyone to see this photo. It's a photo of a little girl. She's sitting in this chair. She doesn't have any shoes on, but she's wearing a dress, like this white, kind of like frilly dress. She has blonde hair. You can tell that her hair is curled and she has like a bow in her hair. Okay, I love that photo. Now, like fast forward to like, and that I took those photos in like, it was like 2008 or something like that. I've been to Myrtle Plantation a ton of times, you know, but these are just like the main stories that I have from there. So when I went back to Myrtle's Plantation in 2023, I wanted to show somebody exactly where I took that photo because I had showed them the photo and I was like, hey, I'm going to show you exactly where I took this photo. Well, so when I went over there to that part of the yard, there's no furniture there anymore. But there was this do you know like you buy them around Halloween time and it's like these little things of like tombstones and they're kind of like styrofoam and like gray and black or whatever. It was one of those. Exactly where that sorry, I gotta plug my phone up. Exactly where that chair was. So when I saw that, I was like, that's really weird. And I want to know, you know, what's going on about that. So I was like, okay, who can I ask? And I was like, I'll just go in the gift shop. So I went in the gift shop over there and there's like some ladies working in there. And I was like, hey, how are you? And I was like, I got a question. And I was like, I was out here some years ago and I took this photo and I was going to show this person exactly where I took my photo, but the chair's not there. But here's this thing, this little tombstone that says X marks the spot. Could you explain to me why that's there? And she said, well, there's nothing significant about that spot. He said, there were some kids here earlier and they were playing a game and the kids placed that there. And I was like, that's so crazy. And like, I couldn't explain to her, but it was like in that moment, I was having like just like a download of like all this stuff, like linking up together, you know?
Synchronicities.
It was crazy.
Synchronicities.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious if you if you've ever felt or like if you do feel now any significance to like the hummingbird thing, like being
Hold
called
on.
hummingbird.
I'm sorry. What was that? I'm sorry.
Is there any significance to like the hummingbird for you?
Yes. Now listen, I wanted to tell you too. I don't remember if I told you this in the past, but I remember when you and we talked about this and you were telling me some things. And then when you put that song on your channel, like not this channel, but the other channel that you have, or maybe it is on this channel, but I know it was definitely on the other one. But when I listened to it, it was like a feeling of, and I know you know this feeling of where I've heard that song before, you know, and that's funny because like my song that I always heard from the ceiling is like, I've heard that song before. It was like that. It was like, I've heard this before. And then I went and I listened to the one that you said, like someone had already like, you know, made it like some years ago. And I was like, not that one though, you know, but yours. So yeah. So I know what you mean about that.
I wonder the song I've heard the song before thing. I wonder if that was a Montauk song or something. It's kind of spooky.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And you know, it the way that do you remember, like, I don't know if you saw where, like, okay, when you were beginning to tell me about Mac Miller, and I said to you, or I don't remember if I told you, but I did post a video, that on that video, I talked about where you started to tell me about Mac Miller. I went and I turned on one song of his. When I turned that song on, I did not turn it off. I looped it for over 14 hours. And the reason is because music does this thing to my brain where, especially if it's like certain music, certain songs or whatever, I get so many downloads just continuously and I can write. And it's just like, as long as I will have it going on, it's like I could do anything. There used to be this one song I would listen to sew. Like I could listen to this song and just like continuously sew and never make a mistake and just like keep making dresses, and they would all be like perfect, and like one would be like the next one will be better than the last one, and it's just like it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain, you know. I mean, I understand it fully, but it's very strange. So yeah, the music in my brain is connected in a way that it helps me to figure out so much stuff, you know? So I love it.
Yeah, the Mac Miller
Yeah.
thing is he was a time soldier, and I'm fairly certain you knew him. Um, uh, the hummingbird thing for you, the reason where that came from is you had the ability to slow down time. Um, Basically, like hummingbirds, if you've ever looked at them, the way they fly around, they're like in a different time space because of the way their metabolism works, and they literally perceive time uh, more slowly than we do. So those very fast movements that you see for them, it's not as fast. And you had that kind of ability to an extreme degree, which, you could do stuff like sneak into a facility and not be seen on the cameras by moving around enough. Because the cameras wouldn't detect you if you moved around fast enough. Um, and obviously in combat, it's really effective for combat purposes. I don't really need to explain that. Like, a person can move around really fast, can do a lot of damage. And yeah, so that's where that came from. And we all had like code names. Um, with the portals, uh, we would, for a long time, there wasn't really a security measure. We would go on the missions and come back through the portals. But there was an incident where somebody came back and it was like a version of them from an alternate reality. Like, it wasn't actually them or something like that. They just looked the same, but it wasn't them. And they were like a double agent. And like they caused all this damage and all this messed up stuff happened. Um, and so then we got this machine where when you came in through the portal, you had to put your hands after you know, maybe fell over or whatever, depending on how acclimated you were to it. But you would put your hands on this thing, and it would read your like aura, who you were, and you could feel it while I was doing it too. It felt like your energetic field was like being combed or something. I don't know how to explain it. It's a really weird sensation. It's kind of uncomfortable, to be honest with you, but you get used to it after the first like 10 times or whatever it is. But and it would say a voice, a computer would say, "Welcome, Dark Phoenix 1138" or something like that. I can't remember the exact. It was Dark Phoenix. Phoenix, I remember that. And you were Hummingbird, so it would say, "Welcome back, Hummingbird." And then there was a number like 3434. Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but like, yeah, your code name was Hummingbird because of the time, slowing down time. And I had like time abilities, and you had time abilities, so there'd be certain missions where we'd have to do stuff in conjunction with each other with our abilities, like use our abilities together. So they would pair us together pretty often because of that. Um, and yeah, like our job was basically to. It's like a weird thing. Like, we had to make sure to act like we didn't care about each other and not make it in order to even continue to work together. We had to like have this weird veneer of professionalism And that's what it is. Like when you're like a time agent paired with another person, like you're not actually supposed to like, they tell you, okay, you're gonna do this thing, you're a couple, blah blah blah. You're supposed to do your job. You're not supposed to actually like become that. You know what I mean? And that
Yeah.
that was so that was what it was like trying to not care about a person deeply and that you work with so intensely and do such crazy stuff with. It's kind of hard to not care. It's kind of hard to just not develop feelings, even if there's a bunch of different women that I was working with. And I wouldn't maybe just necessarily develop really feelings for all of the women, but I do remember I cared about you a lot. Now that I'm allowed to tell you that, I wasn't allowed to tell you that in the program, but I can tell you that now. I did care about you a lot. I was just afraid
I
of you
care
didn't
about
take
you a
good care
lot.
about me. Yeah, it's good that we can say that now without having to like be afraid of saying it to each other.
Yeah. It's so crazy. It's like everything happened, like so much happened. But it's like you and I can sit here and talk to each other about everything that happened and be okay, you know? It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah,
I mean, I
there's a
don't
lot of
love
people who
all
can't
the
talk.
bad things that happen, but it, those things, it is the past. It has happened, but I mean, like, it's about like how we carry ourselves forward. So I'm trying to, I'm trying to do good.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, what we can end up doing is advocating for what happened at Montauk and, um, I don't know, making peace with it, as the whole world needs to kind of make peace with what happened, not just us. Maybe we can help make that happen. I don't know. I think it's
Yeah.
interesting that you're from Louisiana and that you're entrenched in the history and lore there. Um, it's also extremely interesting because the Montauk Project, it's been testified by many people that it was moved to New Orleans. That there's a
Let me tell
underground
you a
base.
story. You're right. And I want to tell you a story. When, okay, let me back up a minute and say this about Chase. Also, another thing that Chase would do. Okay, I used to not really listen to Lana Del Rey. I knew who Lana Del Rey was, but Chase, when he'd be telling me everything, he'd be talking about Raytheon and everything else. He would send me pictures of Lana Del Rey, but like he would like mark her face out and he would like write my name on it and stuff. I didn't know what he was talking about at the time. I did not know at the time. I had no idea what it meant. Okay. But before that, he and I ever talked. So this was before I'm learning anything about the programs. Okay. Because I used to go down and stay in New Orleans about 2 weeks or 3 weeks every summer. And I always would go stay at this one place called St. Vincent's Hostel, which it's not a hostel anymore. It's like a really bougie, it's like gentrified and everything. But anyways, it used to be really cool. But one time, so this was actually 1 year before I started to kind of, look into stuff more. There was this place that I had been looking at online that I wanted to go explore while I was there at New Orleans. So this place is, it's in a place called Algiers, which is like just a neighborhood of New Orleans. Anyway, so I went down there to Algiers. This place is called Toro Shakespeare Home, and it has been everything. Like the first building that was made for soldiers. That building burned down. They made another building, and it's been everything. It's been like women's hospitals. It's been like all kinds of things. But the last thing that it was, when it was like a functioning business, was it was like a retirement center. but still it was called Toro Shakespeare Home. So Hurricane Katrina happened in 2005. So in 2005, that place become abandoned, you know. Anyways, so when I went down there, this happened to me in 2018. Then I went down there. Okay, so I was leaving New Orleans that day, and I was like, hold up, before I leave the city, there's one place I want to go to. So I find this place. And when I started walking up to it, I thought, is this really my place that I'm looking for? Because I'm looking for like a really creepy abandoned place. And this place looks like a kid's park. Well, that's because it's kind of hidden. So anyway, I got out the car. I'm walking to it. There's kind of nobody around. And I wanted to make sure that like nobody's around, which also, if anybody's ever doing exploring, be so careful. And then also, I mean, just be so careful all the time. You got to be so careful. But anyways, and someone was with me. There were two people with me. But so I went in there. I'm walking around. I was taking some photos on the wall. And you've probably seen this picture because I put it on my stuff a lot. It's a wall that has a little girl drawn on it, like a little stick figure girl. And it says, in the land of gods and monsters, she was my angel. And I took a photo of that. Okay. I took a photo of that at the time. Okay. So, and then this happened. And then I turned to go leave, walk a different direction, take some more photos. Only what happened is this. When I turned around, there's these two guys standing there. And I was like, and so I was like, oh my gosh. And I just like kind of froze because it really shocked me. I was very surprised. But also what was very surprising is these guys did not react. It was Men in Black. At the time, I didn't know it. I know it now. So these two guys are just standing there and they look, it's kind of dark inside the place, even though it's daytime outside, but they were wearing these like caps, like these ball caps. They're wearing some type of uniform. They're both about the same height. They look exactly the same height to me. And so I'm just standing there looking at them. They're just standing there, not moving, not breathing, anything, looking at me. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to go. I don't know what's going on, but this is kind of real uncomfortable. So I leave. I left out of there. I turned around. I started walking. And as I was a little bit away from them, I started to run and I ran to the car. And I left that place. So that's the only time I've been at that place to explore on the 3D. But yeah, I've been there. That place, now that I'm like going back in my mind, I'm like, man, everything in that building was letting me know, like everything. So much stuff, like even the architecture and all this stuff. And they got this weird thing, like on the front of the building, there's this weird like arch, and in the center of the arch is like this giant ass dollar sign. It's so crazy. But yeah, I've been there. And also, man, this place called St. Vincent's Hostel is crazy too. We could talk about that if you want to, but that's going to have to be like its whole own video because there's so much weird stuff has happened there. But yeah, so St. Vincent's Hostel, that was the time that I was at the place and there was this dude randomly, walking around asking me like, hey, you want to play chess? You want to play chess with me? Or first he came up and he was just like acting like he was just like wanting to talk or whatever. And so I talked to him and I was really not feeling good because I really just had a bunch of like crazy stuff happen to me. But I was like, yeah, he was like, you want to play chess? I was like, sure, I'll play. Just because I was trying to get my mind on something else, because like some scary stuff had just happened to me there the night before. And yeah, we played chess there a lot of times. This guy, he asked me what my name was, and I told him my first name. And when I asked him what his name was, he said his name was Lockwood. And like as a couple of days went by, I was like trying to ask him more questions about like who he was. but he just would not tell me a lot. The only thing I know about him is he said his name was Lockwood, and he said his parents lived in Phoenix, which, that's all kind of, anyway. But the reason I'm telling you that about his name being Lockwood is because of the books. I'm talking about the books from Ingersoll Lockwood that talks about Baron Trump. And I'm not even trying to talk about politics. Like, I don't like talking about politics because it makes
no, but it's
people
like a time travel
feel
book.
away and stuff. But it's about time travel. Okay. So the guy, Lockwood, that was getting me to play chess with him the whole time that I was staying at the hostel, his name was Lockwood. So weird. But anyway, yeah, so that happened there. Like, so many weird things happened there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
New Orleans is crazy.
It is a crazy place, and it's like, to me, like, if you had some sort of weird, I feel like it's a place where, like, if like you saw like a person from another time period, or like something weird or spooky, like, it's easier for people to just write it off because it's known for that kind of stuff. So I feel like it's actually probably a perfect place to, like, that might be why they relocated it there. And also it's on a grid line, like grid kind of thing, like a portal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's a Star Fort near there. It's actually, the Star Fort is actually in Slidell, and it's actually the place where, so Jane Mansfield died on June 29th, and I can't remember the year, but she died right near the Star Fort, going it's in Slidell, so it's like not exactly in New Orleans, but it is there. And then also another weird thing about Slidell is I remember, like, I used to be married to someone who had friends there and would say, oh, well, we're going to go stay at their place. And so, back then I didn't know, but a lot happens to us during our sleep and, where we're at when we sleep and all those things. So I don't know. But yeah, there's a Star Fort. And then also, like, man, there's like, they found this city off the coast of New Orleans. And that was like some years ago. So, I mean, people have been talking about these things. And like I said, even about the mounds that are like the oldest mounds on the planet that are in Ouachita Parish in Louisiana, and nobody talks about it. It's like there's all this stuff on TV about like all the mounds and pyramids and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, the real information is hidden right out here in the woods that nobody can go to because it's a private property. But I've been talking about it. And I was telling Veronica and Tom about that too the other day. So they're looking at it too. But yeah, Louisiana, it's really spooky, but I love it. Like, I love this place.
Have you ever seen the show The Expanse? It's like
The what?
it's called The Expanse. I think it's on Amazon Prime.
I hadn't.
Well, it shows a lot of real stuff. And one of the things that it shows is like there are these people that live in the belt, they call it, and these are the people that they're born out there and they mine asteroids and stuff like that, and live on space stations and work on space stations, and the whole thing about these people, which is a real thing, by the way, this happens to people, is if they live in those space stations their whole life, they can't like go on Earth without being harmed by the gravity in the air. So like they're this kind of subspecies of humans that is like stuck on these space stations. Anyway, the reason why I bring it up is they speak Creole. And there's this weird, almost Louisiana, like New Orleans kind of influence to the series. It's kind of got a detective noir feel. So maybe that's why they went with that. I don't know, but maybe there's something like, I don't know. I'm just thinking aloud here, sort of. But like, what if there's something more to that, and the SSP connection to New Orleans, and maybe that's what part of the reason why Montauk moved there is because there's already stuff going on. It was a, you know,
Yeah.
gonna almost be a French colony. So it's got some interesting history that I'm sure we altered a bunch, right? So I don't know.
Yeah.
I would love to come out there and check it out sometime. I hear.
I wish you would. Like a trip to New Orleans, like you would have so much fun. Also, it's so crazy. Also, it's fun and people are friendly there, and it's just when you're in New Orleans, you don't feel like you are in anywhere in the United States of America. Like you feel like it's its own place, and I truly believe that it is. I don't know, like I think I've got this video. It shows the bridge that you drive on going down into New Orleans. It's the longest bridge in the world. I think it's 33 miles long, and people hallucinate and everything on this bridge because
Oh
when you're
yeah, I've heard
out
about
there,
that.
you can't see any land. People start to hallucinate. They have places actually on the side of the bridge where people could pull over and call the police. But the thing about it is the water under it is not deep. It's just like it's got like ships. There's like old ships in there, all kinds of like old things. But anyways, so yeah, like you have to drive over the longest bridge in the world to go to New Orleans, unless you're going on a flight. But I truly do feel Louisiana is its very own place, not in the United States. It just when you're there, you'll be able to know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like it feels like you are somewhere totally another. Um, but it's great. I love it there.
Yeah, I've heard really
I've
good
been
things
trying to
about
move
it.
down there forever.
One of my best buddies who lives here, that I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for him. He kind of helped me get set up here. He loves New Orleans and is like obsessed with it. And he's even showed me some of like the good Cajun restaurants around here and stuff that have like the more authentic Louisiana food and stuff. Um,
Yeah,
if I ever went out there, I would love to go with him, my friend Dublin, and of course Kat, obviously.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, I would love to go with my friend Dublin because he'd be like a tour guide, and you could do that too if you want. We'd love to meet you there as well, of course.
yeah, for sure.
Maybe there'll be a Montauk conference there someday. That would be like a really cool thing to do, like like not even an SSP conference, just only Montauk.
Yeah, I've been running that through my head for about 2 years time now of how to make that happen. And that way I would just, and I mean, I'm not trying to like charge money for tickets or none of that stuff like
I was
that.
thinking about
But
that
I
recently.
want to
Like,
show people the locations like, hey, this place is this. This place is this, just more of like just a full on educational, historical, I mean, yeah, we can have a good time and stuff too, because it's New Orleans, but I wanted to do more just like a tour. You know what I'm talking
yeah, I
about?
mean, maybe we could do like a thing where we all just meet up, and it's not really like a conference. It's more just like, hey, who wants to
Exactly.
come out and meet up? That'd be cool.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, try to get as many Montauk people as we can to like meet up in New Orleans and just kind of maybe make a little documentary out of it or something. That'd be really cool.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to do right now too. I want to make a documentary. I want to go to all of the places where I've had my experiences at and document, you know. Also this too. Also some of the places that I've been, that I've experienced stuff like really strange weather stuff. Oh yeah, that when I said really strange weather stuff, that reminded me of a whole bunch more stuff that happened when I was a kid. Supernatural. Do you want me to go back to that?
Yeah, sure.
Because this is crazy. Let me tell you this. Okay, so after I had the coma, this was when I was like 9 years old. Okay, so we lived in a different house at that time, but still in the same city. So one day my aunt and her husband came by and they gave me a kite. They gave me a Disney Little Mermaid kite and they gave a kite to my brother. It was like his was like a Ninja Turtle kite or something. Anyways, so me and my brother, we were standing outside and we were trying to get our kites to fly. Well, the wind was like blowing some, but not like super heavy. So anyway, my brother, he was like, well, I'm just going to go in and I'll try this again later. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to stay out here for a bit. So I was out there in my yard and I was standing in the grass. I was like so super determined and motivated. I was like, this kite is going to fly. This kite is going to fly. Like I just kept repeating it to myself. Like I just kept saying it over and over. We had this circle driveway that was unpaved. So there's like dirt and there's like a little couple little rocks or whatever. I saw this wind tunnel form about 6 feet tall, halfway across the driveway from me. It traveled all the way around on the circle drive, all the way over to where I was, but I'm not standing on the driveway. I was standing in the grass. So when it gets to where I'm at, it goes off of the driveway. It goes to where I am at. I was trapped inside of this wind tunnel, and there's like dirt and rocks and stuff. And so I'm like closing my eyes, and I was holding on to my kite really, really tight because I just got it. But it was really trying to pull my kite away. And I was like, I don't want to give, like, I was so happy that my kite was flying, but also I did not want to lose my kite. So I was holding on as strong as I could. Well, eventually the wind got so strong that I let it go. When I let the kite go, it flew across the street into like the tallest tree that was on the other side of the road. And it was there for years. Okay, I never really talked to anybody about that happening besides that. Like, I didn't tell them about that, like, hey, this wind tunnel formed because, or whatever. I was just like, my kite, it's in this tree. And anyways, but after that happened, we had a tornado. This tornado, I was telling Veronica and Tom about this the other day, and Tom said he also had a similar experience one time with his son. But when we had this tornado, okay, so we were outside. It was me and my mom and my brothers were outside. And the weather started, like the weather was fine. It was in springtime and the weather started getting crazy. So we went in the house. By the time that we got in the house, it was a full-blown tornado. My mom's like getting a mattress off of a bed, and we're like in the hallway underneath this mattress, or like, like just trying to duck down. It sounded like it was going to take our house away. It sounded like the freight train. When it stopped, we went outside, and like the biggest tree on our whole place had almost fallen right on our house. It was like between 1 to 2 feet from the corner of the house that was my bedroom. And it was crazier then, because when we went to go check on our neighbors and stuff, none of the neighbors had any weather, and they didn't see any of this happening. And then this also happened in that house. So after that happened, our house got haunted, or we just said the house was haunted, because like, okay, my dad was gone. He was working in like another state, but so it was like me and mom and my brothers, like my youngest brother, he was just a baby then. But, so we had this, and it was like an old farmhouse. There's this door in the kitchen, and when you open this door, there was 2 steps down that went into this laundry room. The laundry room did not have a door that went outside. But at nighttime, my mom would close this door to the laundry room. Every night we'd close it. We just kept it closed during the night. We started to wake up in the mornings, this door would be open. And then so she would be like, that's weird, and she would close it. And then the next night, it'd be open. We're like, and nobody's really scared, but we were just kind of like, huh, that's weird. Then, so also there was a lock on the door. My mom never locked the door because the door was never bothered, but she started to close the door and lock it. Well, we'd wake up in the morning, not hearing any sound at night, none of this going on at night. It would be unlocked and opened. Then, so after a couple of nights of that happening, my mom started doing this. She would lock the door, close it, lock it. Also wedge a chair under the door so that there would be absolutely no way that it could open. We'd wake up, the door would be open, unlocked, and the chairs, not just that chair, but all the chairs in our whole kitchen would be moved around like all crazy and stuff. And that went on for a while. It finally stopped. But I remember when that was going on, I was so curious about like, how is this happening? And how do we not hear any sound at all when this happens? Because the thing about it was like these chairs, like even moving one of those chairs, like just a small bit would make like a loud noise.
Yeah, there's something.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that happened there. So that was something another one of the things that happened when I was a kid. I mean, just like so much has happened. So much. Like I want to eventually get everything, all my stories out, because I've got a ton. But what I have to do a lot of times is make notes, just like as I'm thinking of something. Like I could be doing anything. Like always, like I advise everybody always carry around paper and pen because like it helps. Yeah, when we make notes on our phone and stuff. But when you hand write something, it works with your brain in a different type of way. It just works better. But anyways, so yeah. But and I've got a lot of crazy targeting stories. Like one of the times I just made a video about this too. One of the times, okay, so I lived in Texas. This was when I was 14. I moved back to Louisiana. And okay, so we were only up here for about like 2 days or 3 days. And me and my mom went to Walmart. I was in this Walmart and I was looking at CDs, and this guy came over there and he was just like watching me. And I wasn't like trying to talk to him or anything. And he walked over to me and he was like, hey, and he told me his name. He was like, hey, my name is this. What's your name? And I was like, I told him my name, and he said, how old are you? And I told him I was 16, even though I was just 14. But he was like, oh, well, he said he was like 18 or 19 or something. And I was like, oh, all right. And I still was not trying to talk to this person. He didn't ask me for my phone number, didn't ask me where I lived, nothing like that. So I was like, I'm going to find my mom. I got to go find my mom. So I found my mom. We went back to the house. And then we're at the house for a little bit, like maybe like 2 hours or something. And I'm just like looking at a book in a room, and my aunt comes up to me and she was like, hey, Erin, somebody's here to see you. And I was like, who? And she was like, I don't know, just go see. And so I went. It was this guy that was in Walmart. He come to our house. He didn't come to the front door. He come to the back door. And I was so caught off guard that like I wasn't even asking him like, how did you know where I lived or anything like that. I was just like, he was just like, hey, yeah, well, I just thought I would take you to a movie. Do you want to go to a movie? And I was like, I cannot go to a movie with you. I was like, I don't know you. Plus, I can't go anywhere because I'm only 14. And he was like, oh, well, I thought you said you were 16. I was like, yeah, well, I did. But also, I didn't know you were going to come to my house. So I'm only 14 and I can't date. And you just need to go because I'm going to be in trouble if you don't go. So anyway, and then he just kept being like super, super, really persistent. But then eventually I had to be like kind of rude. And I was like, look, you need to go. You really need to go. Just leave. So he left. And then what was so weird is this, like, so I got that dude to leave. I'm walking back in the house. My aunt, who was the one who told me I had company or go see what this person wants, she was like, Erin, how do you know that guy? I said, I don't know that guy. I said, listen, I was just in Walmart with mom. I was looking at CDs. This guy walked up and started talking to me. And she was like, Erin, listen, she said, 2 or 3 days before y'all got here, she said that guy and his wife and their baby walked up to the house to use the phone because he said that like they were out of gas or like something was wrong with his car or whatever. And she was like, but it was really weird because when he was in here, he ended up actually not using the phone. Then also when he was in here, he was just staring at your school picture above the fireplace. Cause like my gran had like, like me and my brother and my cousin picture above the fireplace. So what I'm saying is this, that guy, it's crazy. It was like before I even got here, they knew I was going to be here. And then they already had that guy scoping out the place where I stay before I even get here. And like looking at my photo to make sure he could recognize me. Like, so that was really crazy. And I mean, there's been like, oh my gosh, like people has almost kidnapped me at my jobs, every single job. Like I've had crazy stuff going the whole time, constantly. And it's been like heavy targeting, scary stuff. Also, like, I don't know if I should say this, but I won't say the name of the city, but there's some police that has targeted me. And I'm not gonna talk about that right now. But it's been really crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the life of an asset, as they call us. Well, I think we could probably wrap this up if you don't mind. We have
Okay.
another interview in
No,
a
it's
while.
good.
I need to eat dinner too between.
Okay.
But it was really nice having you on the show. I'm
Thank you
not.
for having me here.
Yeah, if there's anything else you want to talk about before we go or anything, I'm not trying to rush you out of here. But is there anything else you want to say before you go?
Before I go, I just want to say to everybody, uh, just stay calm, focus on the good, show gratitude, because gratitude is like a boomerang. The more gratitude that you show, even as to yourself, just express things to yourself that you're grateful for, the universe will bring more things to you to be grateful for. Stay in your heart and just stay grounded. And I love you. And yeah, that's about it, I guess,
That's
for
a good
now.
message. I love you too, and you've got like a YouTube channel as well.
I
Um,
do. Yeah.
what
My
is the YouTube?
YouTube is it's called Little Star Big Adventure is the name of my channel. And there's a comma. It says Little Star, and then you place a comma, and then Big Adventure. I can't put the stuff in my, like, I'll come back on this video after and put in all the stuff. I can't do it right now because I'm on my phone. And then, like I said, my laptop's like hooked up to the other account. So, but yeah.
Well, thanks again for coming on, and we'll have to keep in touch. And yeah, thanks everybody for being here and watching the show. We're gonna wrap things up now. Uh, Bye, everyone. Have a good one. Take care.